Alright, so they want me to figure out what f of negative 10 is. F of negative 10 wants us to identify the y value when x equals negative 10. So when x equals negative 10, it looks like the corresponding y value is 6. Um, we need to remember that f of x equals y. And so they're giving me the x and we want to find the y. So the answer to part A is 6. Is f of 6 positive or negative? Well, at x equals 6, it looks like the y-coordinate is negative 4. So f of 6 is negative 4. And that's, of course, a negative number. So the answer to part B is negative. For what numbers x is f of x equals 0? They're asking me what x coordinates have a y value of 0. If x is negative 6, the y coordinate is 0. If x is equal to 10, the y coordinate is 0. And it looks like if x is equal to 7, the y coordinate is 0. This point right here has an x coordinate of 7 and a y value of 0. So there's 3 x coordinates that have a y coordinate of 0. For what numbers x is f of x greater than 0? F of x is the same thing as y, so they're asking me what x coordinates have y coordinates greater than 0. Well, if x is between negative 10 and negative 6, those x coordinates have positive y coordinates. And if x is between 7 and positive 10, the y coordinates are greater than 0. So we can answer an inequality like that. Alternatively, it would be okay if we put negative 10 to 6 using interval notation and 7 to 10. I have to put a bracket on the negative 10 because at negative 10 the y coordinate is positive. E wants to know when is the x coordinates less than 0. Well, if x is between negative 6 and 7, the y coordinate would be less than 0. And so we can answer like that, or we could answer in interval notation. The domain of f, the x coordinates span from a low of negative 10 to a high of 10. So that's the domain. Or once again, we could answer in set notation, x such that x is between negative 10 and 10. So we can answer in interval notation or set notation. I kind of like interval notation better. What's the range? The y-coordinates go from a low of negative 8, it looks like, to a high of, the high is kind of hard to see. This is the high point on the y-axis, and it looks like it's 11. Looks like it's about 11. The high point on the y-axis isn't really clear. I think if someone were to put 12, that should be accepted. But it looks like it's 11. And alternatively, once again, we could answer in set builder notation if we wanted to. What are the x-intercepts? The x-intercepts include negative 6, 0, 7, 0, and 10, 0. The y-intercept is at 0, negative 6. How often does the line y equals 8 intersect the graph? Well, we could draw it in. Here's the line y equals 8. It's a horizontal line. And it looks like that hits the graph twice. And then how often does y equals, how often does, let me see, maybe I wrote I twice. So we just did J. We just did part J. Part K, wants us to figure out how often does x equals -2 hit the graph. Here's the graph of x equals -2 would be a vertical line, and it just hits the graph once. And part L, for what number x does f of x equal -8? They want to know what x coordinate has a y coordinate of -8. And it looks like there's just one point. This point right here has a y value of -8. So f of x is equal to -8. It has a y value of -8. And so the x value at that point is 2. So if x equals 2, y will be -8. So the answer is x equals 2.